Hello everyone. In today's video, we will be exploring the brain's protective structures, scalp, skull, meninges, CSF, and also the blood-brain barrier or BBB. So these are not just fascinating structures, but also popular topics in exams like UGC NET. So let's dive in and uncover how each of these structures safeguards our brain. Here is a visual of the brain's protective layers. Up top is a scalp, the outer soft tissue with skin, connective tissue, and a few hidden layers which we will be discussing later. Just under that is a skull, the sturdy bone shield that gives our brain its first layer of protection. Then we see the meninges, which are three delicate membranes hugging the brain. The first one is dura mater, the tough outer cover that sticks to the skull and even forms channels called dural sinuses for blood drainage. And arachnoid matter is the next one, the middle webby layer that creates a space for cerebrospinal fluid or CSF and blood vessels to float. And then the third one is the pia mater, the soft inner layer that clings right to the brain surface, nourishing it with rich supply of blood. And we will be discussing further on these three layers later. So together, these layers, scalp, skull, meninges, along with the CSF, forms a powerful protective system that cushions, stabilizes, and nourishes the brain. So keep in mind that the order of these membranes from outside to inside is dura, arachnoid, pia, and this exact sequence is crucial for exams. Now let's go deeper into each layers, starting with what the scalp is made of and why it matters. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the layers of the scalp. As you can see in the diagram, the scalp comprises 5 distinct layers. A handy way to remember them is by using the mnemonic SCALP. SCALP. Okay, so S stands for skin, the outermost layer, rich in hair follicles and sebaceous glands. And C stands for connective tissue, a dense layer that binds the skin to the aponeurosis containing blood vessels and nerves. And A stands for aponeurosis, or it is also known as gallia aponeurotica. Okay, this is a tough fibrous sheet connecting the frontalis and occipitalis muscles, forming the occipitofrontalis muscles. Okay, if this frontalis muscles is located on forehead, which plays a role in raises the eyebrows and wrinkles the forehead, aiding the expression of emotions. And these occipitalis muscles are located at the back of the head. So this aponeurosis functions as a connection between these two and forms this occipitofrontalis muscle. Okay, so A stands for aponeurosis. Then L stands for loose areolar tissue. Okay, loose areolar tissue, a flexible layer allowing movement of the scalp. And this is clinically significant due to its role in the spread of infections. And this is often referred to as the danger zone of the scalp. Why? Why it is referred to as danger zone? That is because it contains some emissary veins, some valvulus veins that connects the veins of the scalp to the venous sinuses inside the skull. So this unique feature allows infections or blood to spread from the scalp directly into the cranial cavity, potentially leading to serious conditions like meningitis. Okay, so that's why it's known as danger zone, these loose areolar tissues. The P stands for pericranium. These are the periosteum of the skull bones. It provides nourishment and capacity for repair. Okay, so in short, S stands for skin, then C for connective tissue, A for aponeurosis, L for loose areolar tissue, and P for pericranium or periosteum of the skull. Okay, now let's delve into the skull, the second major protective structure of the brain. The skull is a robust bony framework composed of several strong hard bones joined by a fibrous joints called sutures. Okay, these sutures are immovable joints that securely connects the bone, providing strength and stability to the skull. So, two primary parts are there. One is viscerocranium, also known as facial skeleton, which forms the facial structure and supports the soft tissues of the brain. Okay, and the next part is the neurocranium, is also known as the brain case or brain box, which encloses and protects the brain. It is further divided into two main parts that we are going to discuss. So basically, you need to remember here is there are primarily two parts for the skull. One is viscerocranium or the facial skeleton part, which supports and protects the facial tissues. Okay, the next is neurocranium, or otherwise known as brain case or brain box, which encloses or protects the brain. Clear? Then the two main parts of neurocranium is calvaria and cranial base. So calvaria acts as a cranial roof, Okay, this is a domed roof of the cranial cavity, which is formed by the parietal bones and parts of the frontal and occipital bones. So you can understand the relative position of these bones by understanding the relative position of different lobes of our brain in the cortex. Okay, so we are familiar with the terms parietal lobes, temporal lobe, frontal lobe, occipital lobe, and all. So you can connect these the positions of the relative positions of these bones according to that. So the first one is calvary or cranial roof, and the second one is cranial base. The floor of the cranial cavity composed of sphenoid and ethmoid parts of the frontal, occipital, and temporal bones. Okay, you just understand these two terms. The calvary and cranial base are the two main parts of our neurocranium. Now let's shift our focus to the next protective layer, the meninges. So as we mentioned earlier, these are three thin membranes that wrap around the brain and spinal cord, acting as a crucial shield. So from outermost to innermost, the membranes are dura mater, then arachnoid matter, and pia mater. And one thing to remember here is, together the arachnoid and pia mater are referred to as leptomeninges. Okay, leptomeninges, which literally means thin matters. So these are the thin matters here. Arachnoid and pia mater together referred to as leptomeninges, which means thin matters. Okay. So these layers don't just protect, they also act as a cushion to the brain, using cerebrospinal fluid or CSF acting like a built-in shock absorber, and also they anchor brain and spinal structures in place to prevent unnecessary movement within the skull, and also serve as a support network for blood vessels, nerves, lymphatics, and CSF to flow. Then let's begin by exploring the outermost layer of the dura mater in more detail. So the dura mater, which literally means tough mother, this is a thick, durable membrane sitting just under the skull, offering powerful protection for the brain and spinal cord. And this dura has two layers. The first one is outer periosteal layer, acting like the skull's internal periosteum. Okay, and one another layer is inner meningeal layer, which continues down around the spinal cord. Clear? So the outer periosteal layer and inner meningeal layer, these are two layers of dura mater. And this meningeal layer falls inwards to form the dural reflections. And this dural reflections means, or dural falls, it means these are some inward extensions or falls of the meningeal layer of dura mater into the cranial cavity. Okay, that is known as the dural reflections, and it is formed by meningeal layers. Clear? So between these layers lie the dural venous sinuses. Between these layers means the outer periosteal layer and inner meningeal layer, there lies these dural venous sinuses. These are the major drainage channels that carry blood and CSF back toward the heart. Clear? The superior sagittal sinus is the largest of these sinuses. So there are dural venous sinuses, and the superior among them is the largest among them is the superior sagittal sinus. Clear? The next one, the middle layer of the meninges, is the arachnoid mater. Its name comes from the Greek word arachne, which means spider, due to its web-like appearance. Okay. This delicate vascular membrane lies just beneath the dura mater and envelops the brain and spinal cord. And there are some key features for arachnoid mater is that it provides one subarachnoid space beneath that. Okay, located beneath the arachnoid mater, this space is filled with CSF or cerebrospinal fluid, which cushions and protects the central nervous system. So CSF is there in subarachnoid space. Clear? And also one thing that we need to know is the arachnoid trabeculae. Okay, these are delicate strands of connective tissue that connects the arachnoid mater to the pia mater, which helps to maintain the arachnoid space and supports the brain structure. So that feature is known as arachnoid trabeculae. Then the next one we need to know is the arachnoid granulations or villi. Okay, these are some small protrusions of the arachnoid mater into the dura mater that allow CSF to be absorbed into the venous system, maintaining the balance of CSF production and absorption. Okay, so that function is performed by arachnoid granulations or villi as part of arachnoid mater. And the innermost layer of meninges, the pia mater, often referred to as a tender mother due to its delicate structure. That is the innermost layer, the pia. Then this thin transparent membrane closely adheres to the surface of the brain and spinal cord, following every contour, sulcus, and gyrus. Unlike the dura and arachnoid, the pia mater is highly vascularized, containing a network of blood vessels that supply nutrients and oxygen to the central nervous system. Okay. So we discussed the three protective layers of meninges: dura mater, arachnoid mater, and pia mater, along with their associated structures and functions. So now let's delve into the role of CSF, a clear, colorless fluid that cushions and nourishes our CNS or central nervous system. So CSF is primarily produced by the choroid plexus within the lateral ventricles of the brain. Okay, where it is being produced, choroid plexus within the lateral ventricles of brain. Then CSF is reabsorbed into the venous system through arachnoid granulations, which discussed earlier, which is located along the superior sagittal sinuses. And this process maintains a balance between CSF production and absorption, ensuring stable intracranial pressure. Okay, and the next one is blood-brain barrier or BBB. Okay, this is a selective barrier that protects the brain from harmful substances while allowing essential nutrients to pass through, which means it acts as a barrier, blood-brain barrier, which allows only particular nutrients or some essential nutrients to pass through, and those blocks other harmful substances. So the BBB is a selective filter formed by tightly joined endothelial cells lining the capillaries in the brain. So these cells are connected by tight junctions, creating a barrier that regulates the passage of substances between the bloodstream and the brain. Surrounding these endothelial cells are pericytes and astrocytes and feeds, which provide additional support and contributes to the barrier's integrity. So why this BBB is important? BBB acts as a vigilant security system. Okay, it allows essential nutrients like glucose and amino acids to enter the brain while blocking potentially harmful substances such as toxins, pathogens, and certain drugs. So this selective permeability ensures that the brain maintains a stable environment, crucial for its proper functioning. Clear? I hope this video is useful for you. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the protective layers of the brain. If you enjoyed this video, please do share it with your friends and colleagues. Sharing knowledge helps us all learn and grow together, right? So we would like to hear your thoughts. Please leave your feedbacks in the comments below. See you in the next video.